Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Wettendorf. I'm the Parent Support Coordinator for Da Vinci Academy. And today I'm going to be going through an overview of all of our language arts curriculum. Language arts would include your reading, writing, comprehension, vocabulary, grammar, and spelling. So all of those topics combined into one is your language arts. Anything that has to do with reading and language, basically. Your development of English language. So it's going to be a little bit of a long video because we have a lot of curriculum to go through, more so than the math, but I'm going to try to hurry through it since it is just an overview. And if at all you have any further questions, there's going to be more, you can get more details from your ESs, your educational specialists, and we will also be breaking down all these curriculums by topics. We'll have a phonics video, a spelling video, a grammar video to show those type of curriculums so that if you're not new to homeschooling and you know that you just need a spelling because you already know what you want for the other parts of your language arts, you can go to just the spelling video. But for now, here is the overview. So what I'm going to start with today is McGruffy. McGruffy has a math portion, which is K through 5. The McGruffy Language Arts is a full all-inclusive curriculum, and that it includes all the parts you need for language arts, but the language arts only goes up through 4th grade as a full curriculum. So 5th grade, they have pieces that you could use, but it's not considered a full curriculum. I'm going to show you the 2nd grade version of it today. This is the 2nd grade handwriting. This is something you typically order separate from your big kit because not everyone wants to do the traditional handwriting. It's colorful, it's cute, and it's like a copy workbook. So you order that separately through your educational specialist. Then you get a big bag like this. It has all the components on the little paper here. And the 2nd grade is going to come with a couple of teacher's manuals. And the wonderful thing about McGruffy is that it is completely scripted. It tells you what to say and is just very, very easy to follow. 2 teacher's manual, 80 lessons a piece. So the first teacher's manual will be lessons 1 through 80, and you can see this one is lessons 81 through 160. So for your full year. So basically first half of the year versus second half of the year. And it'll tell you all your word lists and special information in the front. I always encourage parents to read through the beginning and introductions of their books because you can get so much more of the curriculum if you can understand why the authors of that curriculum did it the way they did, why they organized it, and where to find things. Makes your life so much easier, trust me. So here is a lesson format. There's lesson objectives. This is your material list that you'll need. They abbreviate a lot of it, but you just find out this abbreviations in the beginning and then you're used to seeing them and just grab what you need. Your word list, it tells you exactly what to do and what to teach. It'll say, write this, say this, and it is very easy to follow. So you pick up and you teach it. There's not a whole lot of prep work other than grabbing the materials out. It also will show you, I love this feature, in the teacher's manual, it'll show you a picture of the page your student's supposed to be doing. So if you're confused, like, which book am I working in? You can see exactly what book to work in as well as what the page looks like so you know you're doing the right page, okay, with the lesson. A lot of manuals don't have that, and I love that that is a feature of McGruffy Language Arts. And they have lots of books that you can read and reading. Some of the reading books are right there in the teacher's manual, so you can follow along from your teacher's manual while your student is reading from the book. This is book 16 in the book pack you get. Let me show you the book pack. McGruffy comes with its readers. So you get a set of readers like this. You can see them. They have their word lists on the back and then their set of readers here. So you can see Ruff's Spy Plane. This is your 2nd semester, lessons 86 to 90. Ruff's Spy Plane. And in here, you have Ruff's Spy Plane right there as well. So while your student is holding the book, you can be following along your teacher's manual. I don't know any other curriculum that does that. usually you have to sit there and hope that you're leaning over your student enough to be able to follow along. It also comes with a spelling and phonics workbook. Again, just colorful pages using lots of different colors to make things interesting for your child. A language and reading workbook and a writing skills workbook. I won't pull out all those. And then of course, as I explained in the math video, every McGruffy curriculum has a language arts resource pack, or in math, it has math resource pack. These are just cardstock items and laminated items to help you teach. A lot of them are games or special activities that have to be cut out, and rather than cut up your nice workbook, they've already provided separate pages that are easy to cut, so you're not pulling them out of a workbook and then trying to cut through them and it being regular paper. They're just trying to make your life easier with the resource pack. This is one of the laminated sheets. This is the dog pound compound, and it tells you what lesson it goes with. See, it says lesson 56 plus, so you use it several times. That's why it's laminated on nice paper, and it's a game you play. They're really creative and really fun. It's a great curriculum. It's really cute. And those are all the parts for the second grade. Let me just throw that back in the bag. Now, the only thing that changes in the upper grades for the language arts is that instead of having readers like this, you're going to have a spiral down book that it's a reading book. So you're not going to have like a bunch of little books that they read. You are going to have reading book. It'll call it the reading book. It'll say reading book 1 because that's the first one you start with. And the stories are right in here that the student reads out of. So that's the only difference of having a bunch of little books. You have these reading books. You still have the teacher's manual and your workbooks, and then the reading books instead of the readers, and your resource pack. Fantastic, thorough curriculum, cute, love it, and very easy to follow. So if you're wanting kind of something that looks more like a traditional school day, McGruffy is it. Like, I could use that in a regular classroom with my students. It's very traditional and very cute. Next is Move Me on the Page. Move Me on the Page is one of my personal favorites, mainly because it is a thematic-based learning for language arts. It is going to take social studies and science concepts and combine them into their literature. Now, some of our families just do the language arts portion of this curriculum and not the science and social studies, but I really encourage families to do it as a whole because you get a lot of your reading for information standards from the science and social studies workbooks that you do. And they're still covering language arts standards. They're just studying more science and social studies topics. And they relate to the language arts topics. So I'm going to show you what I mean. It is a varied age group. What makes this curriculum really nice is that you can do this with several of your students that are at different age levels. So first I'll show you our youngest level of Moving Me on the Page, which is ages 5 through 7. So it goes by age, not by grade. So I could do this with a kindergartner, first grader, and second grader. And the younger grades in the 5 through 7 and 6 through 8 ages, it's a little bit more simplistic. You have a teacher's manual that looks really wordy, but you get used to it and you can skim through it a lot easier, but it tells you what to do and what to say and all the activities, very explicit. And then it has you do all these activities. It'll say activity 1, activity 2, and I'll explain how to do those and what worksheets to do with them. And then, sorry. And then we also ask you to do all the activities in it. They'll give you option 1, option 2. That's for varied levels. My son is really little, so he always does option 1 because it's a little bit easier. But if you had an advanced learner or like your kindergartner could do option 1, maybe your second grader, if you're doing the same curriculum with them, would do option 2. And the activities you can just adjust for your child's needs. But we ask you to do all of the activities in some format before moving on to the next lesson. In the younger grades, the social studies and science are pulled right into one book. So there's one teacher's manual and your little student workbook. You won't use all the pages in this workbook because some are option 1 and some are option 2. So like for my son, I'm never doing option 2. They're too hard for him. So we always do option 1. So there's a couple of worksheets we don't do. Some of them look more traditional, but then, and there's some handwriting pages in there for them to practice their handwriting and the letters they're doing, but others are, you cut out and you glue these things in there. So these are all pages that you just pull out. I always pull them out for my son. And this is an example of an option 1, option 2. Option 1, my son did this page. He was describing texture and working on his vocabulary, and we were talking about hard versus soft, gooey, sticky, fluffy. And so pillow, how would you describe it? He cut out these and he put the words in the right place as I was guiding him. But then if you had a more advanced learner, instead they write it in the blanks. Here's your word box, you don't cut them out, you write them. He wasn't ready to do that because he's still quite little and he's still learning to write a lot of things. So that's an example of option 1 and option 2. That works really well. Also with these, a bunch of books that you need. We provide all the books you need. This is a particularly cute book that we did. It's different cultures, so it's called A Life Like Mine. You refer to this book for several lessons. That's on your 3rd unit of this concept. And we also provide the manipulatives you need. Because we were talking about similarities and differences, we had to do a lot of work with attribute blocks as we were learning to describe things. We did by color, by shape, by size. And so we provide those pieces for you as well. Now, Moving Beyond the Page has 4 concepts per year. So it'd be like, again, like 1 concept per term. And this is a concept, a teacher's manual and the workbook for the younger grades. But there's 4 of these topicals. This one's called Similarities and Differences, but the other 5 through 7 topics are environment, which my son is currently doing, patterns, and change. Each of them have different topics that relate to science and social studies and their vocabulary development and reading and all this kind of stuff. But they do not, what was I going to say with that? Oh, if you're doing the whole curriculum, we say do 2 concepts a year because they take a lot of work, especially if you have a kindergartner. This doesn't have phonics in it. This reinforces some phonics, but it's not going to teach them how to read. So you're often pairing this with a phonics curriculum, which I'll get into in a little bit, or you can watch the phonics video if you want. But because that would be a lot, you wouldn't probably do all 4 concepts in a year. If this was your only curriculum, you could probably get through all 4 concepts in a year. So sometimes you can just choose by the topic you like, and we ask you to do 2, so 1 a semester. All right, I'm going to show you the older version of Moving Beyond the Page simply because it looks a little different. So the older version of Moving Beyond the Page, oh, here we go. It has all of these workbooks. Instead of 2 books, you have 6, and that's because there are 3 units in a concept, and you're not going to remember all this, but your educational specialist will walk you through it. There's a language arts and either a science or social studies that goes with each language arts unit. For instance, when you are studying the language arts book, My Side of the Mountain, it's about a little boy, or he's a bigger boy, that goes off into the wilderness and lives by himself for a while. At the same time, you're studying a science unit on biomes. And sometimes our parents will do both the science and the language arts at once, or they'll do the language arts and then the science book right after to continue their study of kind of biomes and all of that. Also, we have A Wrinkle in Time with a unit on space. When the students read a book on Lincoln, they study state government and economics. So they tie the language arts concept into a science or social studies topic so that it's a thematic unit. I love that. Students like learning things in themes, and a lot of the activities are very unique. They might be putting together a map of the westward expansion and how it all went, and different states and trails different people took and different things like that. How the West was won, kind of things like that. So they're going to be doing research projects and final projects that are like culmination of all that they learned. They're going to do a lot of science experiments. So if you do the science and you choose to want to do the science experiments and use all the manipulatives, we can also provide the manipulative kit, which for just this concept, and this whole concept was on, let me see, it's relationships. That's your first concept. Learning about relationships So you're studying poetry and American tall tales and legends and all these kind of things. You're studying 50 states energy, and you're studying specifically a study on your state. Great for a fourth grader. This is ages 9 through 11, by the way. As you're studying those topics, you're going to be, you'll get access to a game called the 50 States. Because you're studying energy and different science topics, we give you a laminated periodic table of elements. Making a dream catcher, you'll have Sculpey clay for an activity you're going to be doing. You get an energy kit to do experiments with when you're studying the unit on energy. You get a second energy kit that has all the materials for the experiments you need to do that is describing in the curriculum. Not everyone wants all the pieces. It's too overwhelming sometimes. So you kind of have to choose what you want. If you just want to do language arts, that's fine. You just get through probably more concepts. If you want to do the language arts and the social studies and science with it, that's when you'll need the kits to go with it and to have a lot of fun with, which the kids love the kits. So it's really fun to do the whole thing and to just make learning really engaging, really fun. We also provide the worksheets for these because you don't have a workbook with these. You don't write in these. These are a teacher manual, but we provide a packet of worksheets that you use. And so if you have multiple children using that, we provide in the younger grades multiple workbooks or multiple sets of worksheets. You just have to specify that so we can fill your order appropriately. And again, the bag of books you need for that curriculum. Okay, those two curriculums are probably some of the most complicated, so they were going to take the longest. We just added this next one to our list this year. It's called Bookshark. Love Bookshark. It is a secular version of Sunlight, basically, if you've heard of Sunlight. It is scripted and it shows you exactly what to do. I love this curriculum because it is very thorough. It covers a lot of standards. It's probably one of our best curriculums as far as standards go. And it's based on a 4-day-a-week schedule. And they do it 4 instead of 5 so that you can have a day for like your co-ops or whatever. Well, in our program, we have a day where you come for a full day called our Da Vinci Day. And you do that so that you can get your science and social studies and music and drama and all of this kind of stuff. Well, instead of having to catch up on day number 5, like a lot of other curriculums, because this curriculum is based on 4 days instead of 5, you already have your Da Vinci Day worked into your schedule in this curriculum. It's pretty fantastic, I think, because of that. I like all the curriculums though, you probably can tell. I have a hard time deciding which one to do because I think they're all very unique. So they'll give you some of this is the manual, teacher's manual. It actually will come with the worksheet in a worksheet packet, and we'll need to put it in a binder for you. And it'll be a big binder. It'll give you the days of the week and what lessons to do on each day and the activity. So it already gives you your schedule right here of exactly what to do and when, which I love. And then it gives you the lesson, what to talk about, what to go over. It gives you rubrics for when they have a writing assignment so that the student knows what they're looking for. And then it's going to show you the student worksheet. Now in this curriculum, you will also get a set of worksheets. So we wouldn't want you using the worksheets in the teacher's manual because we want you to see what they look like. So you know what worksheet to look for, and we want to be able to reuse this manual, but we will send you home with a set of worksheets so your student can put it in their own binder and be working out of that binder. And again, as many worksheet sets you need. If you have 2 5th graders, then we get you 2 sets of the 5th grade. Or if you have a 4th grader that has a higher reading level and you do the 5th grade with them, you know, same thing. So it is very explicit, fun, really great to use. It uses real books. We provide the books again. There's 2 types of books in Bookshark. There is ones that you use for the that you have to answer questions with in the curriculum, and then there's the read alouds. The read alouds are really to get you more background information on the topic that you're doing and just to encourage you reading to your child, which you may already do that. So they give you like a book list of suggestions that you can be reading aloud to your child, which these are more books. The ones we will send home with you are for the curriculum, and then you can read with your student, but you're actually encouraged to have your student read them themselves. But we provide all of those. So Born in the Year of Courage, Rickshaw Girl, Ali and the Golden Eagle. All of these books we will provide. We just don't provide the read aloud books because those are optional, and you can get those from the library. A lot of them are common titles, so you can do that just fine. The other great thing about this is it gives you lots of information in the very back of the teacher's manual, all of your definitions, and not just definitions, but more rubrics, how to do the research paper process. Your student can look at that. You can make copies of it and give it to them, how to do a works cited page, all the reference materials you need. And it's just so thorough. It's a wonderful curriculum. And by itself, it covers a lot of standards, but they actually suggest even in their lesson plans, they suggest you use certain curriculums that you could, if you wanted to go deeper on some topics like grammar, which they have plenty of grammar in here. But again, if you wanted to add something to it, they have suggestions that we actually already offer, like Spelling UC and Explode the Code. Those are, and Wordly Wise. Those are all curriculums we already offer that you could put with it as well. But you can get by with just this, and it still covers 80-some% of your standards, which is one of our highest percentages for language arts, especially in the older grades. It's hard to find one that covers so much. So that's wonderful. And we're offering that grades 3 through 5 right now. All right, the next set is one called Jack Chris, put out by the Jack Chris Company. This set has Soaring with Spelling, Winning with Writing, and Growing with Grammar. So a grammar, a writing, and a spelling. No, that doesn't take care of reading comprehension, but it does the other things, so you can pair it with something that does a better job on the reading comprehension. So with Soaring with Spelling, one of the things I love about it, it's all of these Jack Chris ones are very scripted. The layout every week is the exact same. They have day 1 through day 5. Every single one of these, it'll say day 1. It'll say week 1, day 1. There's your page. It's usually a front and back, or sometimes just a front if it's spelling. So you have that. You have your pre-test and your spelling. Here's lesson 1, day 2. It's just that side of the page. This is first grade's Jack Chris. And then you have day 3 on the other side, day 4, and then day 5 is your final test right here that they give you paper to do it. So it's just so easy to, again, pick up and go. Your student can do this independently. You don't have a whole lot of teaching you have to do with it. It's more of a workbook, but a very thorough workbook. So that's a Soaring with Spelling and vocabulary. It has some puzzles and stuff they do to practice their spelling words and to get the meaning of their words. There's the answer key that goes with it. This goes first grade through 7th grade. But typically, again, we're going to go up through 5th grade unless you have a higher level learner and they need the next level. Maybe their current grade level is not challenging enough for them. So starts in first grade. There's the first grade one. The 5th grade one will have harder words. The Winning with Writing in the first grade and the Growing with Grammar in the first grade is just, again, going to be a workbook and an answer key and some tests. There's a little test pack. But again, it's like one worksheet and then the next and then the next. Like it's just a worksheet a day, basically. That's how you do it. The only difference in the older grades for Growing with Grammar, once you hit 3rd grade with Growing with Grammar and Winning with Writing, you're going to have a semester 1 and semester 2 for Winning with Writing. There's your answer key. Each of these come with an answer key. But again, day 1 or lesson 3, day 1, lesson 3, day 2 gives you all the lesson right here. Again, it's a pick up and go. Your student could probably read this and learn by themselves. It's good for you to clarify, but this is a great curriculum for your kids to just be very independent with. Gives the whole lesson in very simple terms right here. And then it goes in, it breaks down the writing process so well. It has them brainstorm. They work on 1 paragraph a day until they can work up to a 5-paragraph essay. Very explicit, very easy to pick up and go. First semester, second semester for Winning with Writing. Growing with Grammar. Again, I had said the first grade and the 2nd grade has just the workbook and the answer key and some pages. But when you get up into 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade, you're going to get this little student manual, and that's kind of their guide of definitions, and it goes lesson by lesson just so they can have a reference material. And that goes with your answer key and your workbook that they're just flipping through. And again, the Growing with Grammar, I feel like you might need to clarify more on than the other two on what to do. And of course, with the spelling, you're going to give them the pre-test and give them the post-test. But for the most part, they're pick up and go. Growing with Grammar, because grammar tends to be not as easily picked up by children, you may need to do a little bit more clarification. But they have the manual so they can be more independent than their workbook and such in grades 3 through 5. So that is the Jack Chris combo. Again, because it doesn't have a reading component, oftentimes we'll pair it with Reading Detective, which I'll show in a little bit, that has the comprehension component, and that's another workbook. So you could have, if your student is one of those kids who just wants the work and wants to get it done, doesn't care about wanting to be creative or do the fun projects, there are kids like that. They're like, just give me my work, let me finish so I can get done and play. Jack Chris is a great curriculum to go with, and getting a Reading Detective to go with it. It will not teach phonics though, so if you have a younger grade, you'll need to get a phonics curriculum probably if they don't know how to read yet, okay? But it's a great one. Another curriculum that's very workbooky is Spectrum. That's what we'll be talking about right now. Spectrum workbooks are K through 6. I got a 3rd grade and a kindergarten example. They go by color. You can see 3rd grade is green, or light green, lime green. And we have the Spectrum Spelling, Spectrum Language Arts, Spectrum Reading, and Spectrum Writing. Now with the Jack Chris I just showed you, and with the Spectrum, you can use these separately, and they'll be in the separate like spelling and grammar videos to use on their own. If you're, for instance, using Moving Me on the Page, and it has a lot of good components, but you don't think it goes deep enough with grammar, you can just grab one of these grammar resources and not use the full set. But if you're wanting something that's just a lot of workbooks that all are very the same format and from the same company, the Jack Chris or the Spectrum, you can just get a set of workbooks and go. So the Spectrum Reading would be covering your reading standards like comprehension. The Language Arts would be your grammar. And then the Writing would go over your writing skills. It's not really going to teach you how to do a 5-paragraph essay though. Again, it's basic skills. Even in the 6th grade, it's not super deep or thorough. In the writing, I would go for a deeper writing curriculum unless your student is simply not ready for that. You do have to measure when your student is ready for a harder writing. They have to work them up in little increments and stages. And the spelling being a spelling book. So those are like pick up and go. They can be a little bit more colorful, very easy to follow, direct and like just little instruction things. They're great if you need a workbook to go with some online. We do have some online math and we have some online reading, and maybe you're doing one of those, but you want them to do some book work too. That Spectrum would be a great option if you're doing it online. Here's the kindergarten: Spectrum Writing, Spectrum Reading, Spectrum Language Arts. You can see the blue. And then we have a Spectrum Phonics book for kindergarten that you can put in there too to reinforce their phonics. All right, moving on to Essentials in Writing. Essentials in Writing is mainly a writing curriculum, but it has a lot of grammar components in it as well. It is grades 1 through 6. And what I love about it is it comes with a DVD that teaches for you again, and it's a good resource pack. So if you're wanting something where you're a little bit more hands-off, maybe it could be because you don't have a whole lot of time, or maybe you work with multiple students, or maybe you have a student that really doesn't want you to teach them, but you are passionate about homeschooling and want to do it anyway. This is a great solution, something that has a DVD or an online where it's not always you in their face. It gives you a break from, it gives them a break from you and you a break from them, which can be a very healthy thing when you're homeschooling. So Essentials in Writing, really easy to follow. It'll tell you when to stop and do an assessment. The worksheets are easy to follow. It says lesson 21, and you just do that page for that lesson, and you just go through it gradually. Really easy pick up and go curriculum. It has a teacher handbook to help you through how to use it. So it gives you how to use the videos, which workbooks to go with which video lessons, stuff like that. So this is basically your directions as a teacher. Then, so that's Essentials in Writing. So that would be your writing and your grammar. The next one is your Brave Writer. Ooh, this one's fun. So Brave Writer is for those homeschoolers who really don't want to do anything very traditional. And so it is very unique and fun to use, especially its writing portion. It's called Brave Writer, and it's really good writing curriculum, but it also has some other portions that are not just writing. So the first thing is I'll kind of show you some of the components. There's the Writer's Jungle. That's kind of all the theory behind it. You don't have to have this to use Brave Writer, but it's good to read through it and be like, I see why they're doing this and why it's all important. It's a thick book, so you may want to take it as a reference and read through it as you get time, okay? But you don't have to have it, but it is nice to see the whole big picture on how and why to use it. There's also Poetry Tea Time Quick Start Guide. Poetry Tea Time is something that you do regularly in the Brave Writer curriculum, and this is kind of explaining the how and why to do it. It is a great way to really get your kids involved in wanting to read and seeing how fun it is. And it says what to read and how to do it and set up this cute tea time. I won't go into the whole concept of it. They also have a small thing called the 7-Day Writing Blitz for an intro for your kids to write if you maybe don't want to do the whole Brave Writer curriculum but want to do a quick guide to one, or a quick 7-day thing to see if you like it and then decide if you want to do it. And then they have two components. One is kind of the reading side of Brave Writer, where you're reading a book and you're doing some activities with it. And the other side is the actual writing portion. So I'm going to do the reading portion first. The reading portion of Brave Writer is broken down into the wand, the quiver full of arrows, the arrow, a pouch full of boomerangs, and the boomerang. Those are kind of the topics, and it gets older as you go, wand being the youngest. So what it's going to do is it's going to take a book, and a lot of it is based on copywork and passages and bringing the central themes of the passage and talking about it. So you're generating discussion, reading a book together, maybe doing a couple of activities around it, but it's not a really in-depth program into the book. You're reading a book for fun. You're learning topically about it. You're bringing out concepts that are in the book, some grammar concepts and different such as you're reading. But it's not a traditional curriculum where they're going to say, do this with this book. It's going to have some suggestions and everything, but it's a very kind of an open, I would call it an open-ended curriculum. But a lot of our parents are really like it, and it provides unique books, books that maybe you've never heard of and would never think about reading because they have some weird title, but then they're an amazing story that you would have never chosen to read. So they're using like common titles, but also some really unique ones. So in the youngest one, the wand, this one is actually the most thorough of the reading parts, as far as it has all this really unique approach to phonics. So this one you actually will get to learn phonics concepts in it and how to read and how to spell. And the wand you kind of do, you probably wouldn't do it all in 1 year. You probably do it K through 1 or K through even 2 or 1-2, depending on when you start this. You have your guidelines to the wand, kind of explains the how and where. And then you have the wand copywork passages, because copywork is a big part of this program. It tells you how to teach the lesson. It's very explicit. You do a lot of stuff with sticky notes and creativity with folders, and it's fun. The kids, it's a lot of hands-on and going in really in depth of like suffixes and prefixes, but all in a very creative way. It's not like they're just writing a bunch of things. They're doing stuff with sticky notes. They're doing things with games and with copywork. And it will go through and it'll give you a week's worth of lesson at once. So they'll show you week 4, and this is what you do for week 4. And you go through the weeks and it shows you what your sticky note charts and everything will look like. It gives you all the examples of it. And so there's books 1 through 3 in the wand. And in that you're reading lots of little books, like here's the Dr. Seuss Hop on Pop and Fox and Socks. Hop on Pop and Fox and Socks. Oh goodness. And it tells you the grammar and word study you would do with those books. It tells you the copy work. You talk about word origins and a bunch of stuff with vocabulary. The wand itself is very thorough. And that one would be for your like K through 2, I would say. And then you're going to get into the reading passages of the Arrow. The Arrow, or A Quiver of Arrows. Quiver of Arrows are a little bit younger books. The Arrow is slightly older, but we call everything the Arrow in this section. It is going to give you what to do Monday and what to do Tuesday and what to do Wednesday, and teaching the passage that you're studying. So they're reading a whole book, but then you'll take a portion of that book, like a passage in that book, and you'll study it for certain qualities and certain, like a thematic topic almost. And you're going to do dictation. A lot of it is French style dictation, which means in elementary school we called it a close, which is you'd have some of the words, but blanks in which you put the words in, and eventually use that French style dictation until they can totally do it without words in between. They can do it all by themselves without help, basically. And they'll bring out what that book is naturally prone to be good at. So week 2, you're learning about ellipses or the ... because you see that in the book naturally. So you learn naturally the grammatical and story elements of whatever that book is especially good at showing. So you use it directly from you learn it directly from the book, not just from a textbook. So it's very unique that way. Standards wise, it's not going to cover your reading for information. It's going to cover some grammar, but probably not enough to really track. But it's just a very unique curriculum. So I would probably pair the reading side with the writing and maybe a grammar, and you'd have a pretty full, good curriculum coverage, or standards coverage rather. The writing side of it though, oh, so good and so unique. So the writing side, the youngest is, that would go with the wand, is called Jot It Down. And then the next level up that I would typically pair with the Arrow is partnership writing. And then third level up is called Faltering Ownership, and you would typically do that with the Boomerang of the language arts portion. But what I love about this is there's actually a ton of reading standards and everything covered in the writing portion of Brave Writer. They have you read lots of books. You are doing very unique writing projects. They learn to make lists, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's still something they have to learn how to do properly. And you make different types of lists. You do stuff on genealogies and timelines with that genealogy, and they're all month-long projects. Partnership writing is ages 9 through 10, and it is a year long, and there's 10 monthly writing projects. So they'll give you the writing project, and they'll say, week 1, do this, week 2, do this, week 3, do this, week 4, do this. And by the end of it, you have a finished project with all the revisions done. So in Jot It Down, which is the youngest, you write secret codes, and you learn how to make symbols and make them do for meaning of words, which kids find to be so much fun. And you'll make lists, you'll study fairy tales and folk tales, and do some writing of your own. When you get into the higher level of Faltering Ownership, you're going to be doing a lot. You'll be doing even some research papers, but because you work it up so gradually, it doesn't feel like you're doing a research paper, and they do it very uniquely. It's just very unique, and it's very fun, using a lot of, it's not like having a workbook of writing at all. You're doing a lot of your own ideas, a lot of your own research, going out and finding things that you want to learn about, and it's phenomenal. So if you want something that's less traditional, that works writing in a more natural way with unique projects, do the Brave Writer writing portion, which is Jot It Down, partnership writing, and Faltering Ownership. Fantastic. Okay. Explode the Code and Beyond the Code. So Explode the Code there's an online version and a book version. We typically just offer the book version, but there is an online version. The first part is the ABC. It is get ready for the code, get set for the code, and go for the code. A, B, and C. These are when they're first learning their letters. It has a teacher's manual. I highly recommend you get the teacher's manual and do the activities with it, because it is going to do so much more than teach them their letters. It's going to do something called phonemic awareness, where they break down a word just verbally with you and start to understand what a beginning sound versus an ending sound, middle sounds, syllables, all these things that they have to learn that they might not get from doing just the worksheets in these books. Some of our families will use them as just a worksheet if they just need something extra to go with an online. But if you use the teacher's manual and actually do it as a full curriculum, it will cover a lot more standards and you will get a lot more bang for your buck and your kids will benefit so much more. So there's a teacher manual that goes for all 3 of the A, B, and C. I would order all 3 of those together because these will go through all of the consonant letters. It doesn't actually do the vowels in the ABC. And then it moves up into Explode the Code 1, and there's Explode the Code 1 through 8. And this is where they start to introduce vowels and they start to put them together into words. So they start learning about A first, and they start to do all the words and patterns that go with A. So AT and AP, and so you have cap, clap, blah, 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 or fat, bat for the AT. And they do a lot of workbooks. It's just a lot of times our parents love this because it can be very independent. I can let my son do some of these worksheets on his own. He's kind of gotten old enough. And again, there's a teacher's guide. And with the teacher's guide, they're usually for 2 books. This is books 1 and 2. There's another teacher's guide for books 3 and 4. Typically you do at least 2 books a year. For the A, B, and C, you do all 3 in 1 year. That'd be for your kindergartner or preschooler. If you wanted to order the ABC on your own for your preschooler. And then sometimes a kindergartner can be in level 1 if they're ready for it, if they know their letters and are ready for vowels and forming words. Then they can start with Explode the Code 1. Again, teacher's manual, you'll get so much more out of it if you do the activities with the teacher's manual. And so there's 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. So you do them kind of in those years. So it'll take you through 2nd or 3rd grade, depending on how many books you do a year and where you start. That's Explode the Code. Now, Beyond the Code is their comprehension version of that program. So you have a phonics, which is Explode the Code, where they're learning the letters and their sounds. It has some grammar and some sentence stuff in it as they get older. But Beyond the Code is comprehension. And they have levels 1, 2, and 3. And this is really like a K through 3rd program, both the Explode the Code and Beyond the Code. This is not for older grades. It can go well to go with an online. This comprehension piece for K through 3 can go really well with a phonics program. So you could take Beyond the Code and pair it with one of the phonics programs I'm going to talk about. But it has a story that they read and you help them read depending on their age. And then worksheets to go with it. But it's a consumable book and they're really easy to pick up and go as well, not very much prep at all. So that's Explode the Code and Beyond the Code. Next we have Logic of English. Logic of English is a phonics curriculum, meaning this is how you're going to teach your kid how to read. Explode the Code A, B, and C, and if you use the teacher's manual, those will also teach your kid how to read, or your child how to read. Just say kid. But Logic of English, you're going to have a paper in here of all the stuff that's supposed to be included in your kit. Logic of English has A through D. You'd start A for your kindergartner, and it's going to go through teaching them the letters and the letter sounds. The difference that Logic of English is going to do to other phonics curriculums is that it's going to teach all the sounds of A from the beginning. A lot of our phonics curriculums, or a lot of phonics curriculums in general, will teach all the short sounds of the vowels first, and eventually you learn long sounds. But Logic of English will have you do the phonetic cards that you flip through, and it's like A says A, ah, ah. And so you're going to learn all the sounds at once. And they do that. They have an ABC book of sounds called Doodling Dragons. To give you an example, there's the G. It says G and J. So they're going to show you and they're going to give you examples of words that have the G and words that start with the J sound, even though they both start with G. You're going to have that. You're going to have a spelling reference guide. This is very gamey and singy and not a whole lot of worksheets, a lot of reading and a lot of reading practice, but in a very fun, engaging way. So you have the rhythm of handwriting, so you can know a quick reference for teaching them how to write certain letters. You have your phonogram and spelling rule reference thing, and then you have all of these cards that you'll get that you will cut out. It shows you the lines to cut on, and those are used for various games you play to learn all of these phonograms. Phonograms are just fancy word for learning the sounds of the letters and the letter combinations, okay? More cards for doing different games and activities. There's more cards for games and activities. You have that. In it, you have a teacher's manual. And then again, it is very explicit. So lesson 5 of A says, I will say a sound. Join me in saying it. So you really could pick this up and read it to your child and be teaching them how to read, which is really beneficial when you have curriculum like that. It'll give you speech tips so you can help them form the sounds correctly. If your child is, my son still struggles to say certain sounds. And this will give you the speech tips. Tells you materials you need at the top and the objectives, and then it just goes through a very explicit, scripted lesson. It'll show you the sounds it needs you to do, what books to use, how to demonstrate different things, different ways to do sounds in games. And it has a review, and it has handwriting, it has all the components for writing and learning how to do all this. It also comes with a set of readers that they'll read through as they get going, and it comes with a workbook. Pitchery, it's not all a bunch of writing. There is some writing. It's the handwriting practice where they're practicing, they first start to practice just curves. They don't just go straight to letters. Again, Pitchery, matching things, doing circling which ones are compound words, just by hearing them. More handwriting practice. That's when they're finally starting to get into writing the letters, like the letter B. But cute. You sing with them, you play games with them, and you do a couple worksheets. It's very, very hands-on, easy to pick up and go. So you start with A, go to B, go to C, go to D. Now, you get through those levels, and your child is still struggling. They did not pick up on reading very easily. They need extra help. There is a remedial program. Remedial being, it's going to teach them faster, but reviewing all the concepts pretty much way through. That is the Logic of English Essentials. This is going to look overwhelming, but you would do this. It has like book 1, lessons 1 through 17. It has a teacher's manual workbook, and so it just looks like a lot, but it's not that bad when you sit down and look at it for the whole year. Okay, and it comes with a lot of the same materials, but it's basically taking what you learned and teaching in another way. For somebody who's in like 3rd grade and still is struggling to learn how to read, you use Logic of English Essentials. So Logic of English Foundations, A through D, that's when you're first starting those little guys to start to read. And a lot of these phonics curriculums will have placement tests of where to start on these curriculums. But the Logic of English Essentials, you're probably not gonna use that until they're pretty much in 3rd grade and still struggling to learn how to read. But it's formatted very much, again, like hands-on, fun, engaging, all the same things. Next is phonics reading pathways. My son is very, very active, and so when I had to first teach him his letters, I couldn't use Logic of English. It was too long of a lesson. He wasn't ready for it, and he just needed to learn how to do his letters. So I actually use Phonics Pathways. Phonics Pathways teaches things a little bit differently than most schooly curriculums. It is going to give you the introduction on how to use it. Again, read those introductions. They are so, so helpful in understanding the curriculum and how to use them. But the first thing you're going to do, it's going to give you a scripted lesson, and it's going to start with each vowel. The wonderful thing about this curriculum is that you don't move on from this lesson until they've mastered it. So my son, when he was learning these letters, we had to learn vowels first, and that they said A. We didn't learn all the sounds of A in the beginning like Logic of English does. Again, like a lot of these reading curriculums, they start with the vowels just saying their short sound. So we learned that A said A, but until my son could recognize that this was A and this was A, because there's 2 different ways to write it, and that they both said A, we could not move on to studying E. And there's a whole game, I called it Oogly Boogly, that you can learn that's fun. They try to make it as engaging and hands-on. It's a conversation. There is no handwriting for this curriculum unless you want to incorporate it. There is simply a lot of verbal talk and them practicing this. The reason this was so good for my son was because it was a very short 5-minute lesson that I did every day, and the repetition is what helped him get solid on his letters. We had studied letters for a couple of years, but because there wasn't enough repetition and short amounts of repetition, he didn't pick it up. This actually helped him to pick up the letters and their sounds at once. So you go through, you do A, you do E. We got to I. These letters took about a week for him to kind of get, and it has review at the bottom. So he had to go and he had to be able to tell me the different sounds of the A and the E. And then we got to I. We spent 6 weeks on the letter I. My son is not gifted, but this curriculum works for him. So he's a funny kid, but I think it was just the fact it was it, and it sounds a lot like and it was just hard for him to get it. And I had to do like, it, like it, but then you have and you stick out your tongue, and I had to do a bunch of these things with him to help him get it. The other thing some of the ESs had told me was they said use sandpaper letters and help them to write the letter as they're doing it, as they're saying the sound. So I'd say A says ah. Not only did I do it in the direction that they'd be writing that letter eventually, so they kind of got the structure of the letter, it just helped their brains connect with it in another way. So I got some sandpaper letters to go with it too. But you go through the vowels, and then you get to where you get to starting the consonants. So you get the consonants here, and they have the vowels you learned, but you combine them with the consonants. So instead of learning all the letters and then learning how to blend them together into a word, you're starting to blend as soon as you get to the consonants. So this says ha, he, and you kind of go through that so they get used to blending just 2 letters at a time and eventually get to 3, and eventually in the review sections they start reading the actual 3-letter words and all of that jazz, and eventually you get into different word families and practicing those, and it moves pretty quickly. You're not going to probably finish this in a year. You're going to use this over a year or 2, but it's great. And by the time you get to a certain page in here, you can combine it with Reading Pathways, which is simply a fluency book. Fluency is how fast and accurate you can read. So the fewest mistakes in the shortest amount of time. Okay, basically how much you can read with the fewest mistakes in a certain amount of time. So they have these reading pyramids where they add a new word each time. They can kind of feel like a tongue twister, I'm not going to lie, but it's very effective. It's called doing stuff with what she calls aerobics. Basically aerobics for your eyes. That's what she calls it. And you're reinforcing what you learned here in this. Some of my families, even if they didn't use this and they're using another curriculum, but their students just aren't reading as fast or as accurate as they like, sometimes I'll get them Reading Pathways just to work on their fluency and to practice working in something that isn't that intimidating, because there's not really a time limit in the Reading Pathways. It's just practicing how they say words and read words. Okay, I'm going to pause you for a second because I'm running low on battery. Got to plug in. Okay, sorry about that pause. I am going to continue, but I'm going to have to work around a chord. So if I trip, I'm sorry. Next is teach your child to read 100 lessons. It's similar to Phonics Pathways, and that you're just going through, don't have a whole lot of writing or worksheets to do or anything. It's more a verbal lesson. Again, use the intro. It's going to go a lot more in depth into, there we go, rhyming and doing a lot more sounds review and word reading and such. It's going to go a little bit more in depth, I feel, than Phonics Pathways. I'll put it that way. But it is scripted. The pink is what you say. The black is what you expect, like the directions for what your body has to do. So it'll say like, we always have to say this sound fast. My turn to say it fast. And that's in the red. And then I'll say quickly move to end of arrow as you say the sound go. So you have to go go, and you just show them how to do it with your finger. So it's giving you directions in the black, but what you say is in the red. So it's very obvious. It's very scripted, easy to follow. This is another one of those books that you don't necessarily want to move on until they've mastered the lesson. This is 100 easy lessons, but if they're not getting one lesson, it's kind of hard to move on. So you just kind of work with that until they master it and move on. It also teaches them a lot about symbolism, not symbolism as in what a particular word symbolizes necessarily, but symbolism in knowing if you have the straight line over a vowel, that's the long sound that you say. So you say oh instead of with a short sound. So it's going to show you using dots and arrows and different things like that, how the kids can kind of learn to read. And it is very thorough. And by the time you get to the lesson 100, yeah, your kids know how to read. And it's just easy to follow. It's nice if you want something simple and you don't want a bunch of pieces to add to it, because some of our curriculums, they're fantastic, but they have a lot of working parts. And not everyone wants to deal with all those parts. So if you want something very simple to use, this or Phonics Pathways is great. It's really, the Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons is good for a K through first grader, maybe a little in second grade if they need a little bit extra time. Phonics Reading Pathways, because of the reading pathways, takes you into second grade a little bit more. All right, now we're going to All About Reading. After I did Phonics Pathways and my son knew his letters, I still use it as a fluency, meaning how quickly and fast he reads, but now to go more into reading and the strategies and everything, I actually use this one called All About Reading. All About Reading is phonics and reading curriculum that's great for kids who are struggling, especially with dyslexia. Some of my students who have had dyslexia have done well with All About Reading. It's great for younger students. We would still say it's K through second, but you can have a third and fourth grader do it. It has a pre-reading, which teaches letters, and then it starts in level 1 and goes through levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4, I feel like, is somewhat remedial. Like, not everyone finishes with level 4. If they get most of it through level 3, they don't always do level 4. It can be good to go through that. There's between 40 and 50 lessons in each book. Sometimes people can go through an All About Reading level in half a year or 3/4 of a year. And if they do, then they're able to move on to the next level, like mid-year or 3/4 of the way through the year. So my son right now is doing All About Reading level 1. I think it has 52 lessons in it or something. We're not to the end. We're getting pretty close. But All About Reading comes with a manual that has, let's see here. I got distracted by something that just happened. I'm sorry. It has basically, again, kind of scripted lesson plans. It shows you, a lot of the manuals are now in color. It comes with these tiles that you use. They're actually quite colorful. You can see the colors of the tiles. Vowels are in red, consonants are in blue, so your kids can get to know the difference. And it's very hands-on in that they have activities that you cut and glue in the younger levels, as well as every level uses this reading interactive kit of tiles, which will allow them to be moving things around, not just a rote reading program. So it's very hands-on. That's what I'm trying to say, it's hands-on. It also comes with an activity book, which is consumable. You're gonna pull those worksheets out, you're gonna be cutting out, not almost all of them, you're either reading or cutting out and gluing. It's not like a workbook. You're doing very hands-on activities, playing games. Some of them you cut out pieces to play a game with. And then you have these cards in here. You can see this color are the cards. And they have word cards for the words that they're learning that they have to master. Sight words, and also just words that follow the pattern they're studying that day or in that lesson. And they have, in the yellow here in level 1, it is the sound cards of the letters. So the different letter sounds they're learning. So again, you have the activity book, the teacher's manual that tells you exactly how to do each lesson, tells you what to say, tells you the words to do. It's scripted, it's explicit. I love this because I can pick up and go. The only thing I do prep is I make sure I have the right cards out and the right letter tiles out, just so that I can get through the lesson fast. And it's just more an expedient thing. Just trying to be efficient. But this is the reader that goes with it. I'm going to pause real quick. All right, so sorry about that. Honestly, it's my babysitter calling. I was scared it was an emergency. So it comes with these readers that go through some of the lessons you're just reading in this book. And it has the pictures in here. The newer readers have color in them. We'll eventually be getting rid of the old readers without color. We're just kind of siphoning them out. But it has all those components, and together you do flashcards every day. You do the tiles most day, almost just about every day, and then some intermittently you have just reader days where you might do some flashcards, but then you're just reading in the reader. Some of our parents only do half a lesson a day because it can be intense. I do a full lesson in a day. I just take intermittent breaks throughout the year to do something different and let my son practice the skills he's learned and then come back to it. But that is a fantastic reading curriculum. So he's about to finish level 1. I have personally loved using it. My son responds really well because of the amount of repetition you have to do with it on the word patterns, and it just breaks it down. It explains rules that you finally understand in English that no other curriculum might explain, that incorporate syllables, and when you have so many syllables, this happens, and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, it's very explicit, very good. And it goes up levels 1 through 4. My son will start level 2 before summer, and I plan to keep on with it, probably go through level 4 with him because he responds so well, and it's just very simple, very easy to pick up and go, and very thorough. It's not going to teach a whole lot of grammar or necessarily comprehension. It does have questions and discussions you talk with your kids, but it's not going to go in depth into the other parts of language arts. This is more just teaching your kid how to read. So there's that little tidbit. Okay, next is Reading Detective. This is a supplement that mainly works on comprehension. There's a beginning, which is grades 3 through 4, and then you go into A1 and B1 and such. It's grades 5 through 6. If you have a strong reader, you may be able to start this even in 2nd grade if you needed to. But for now, 3rd grade is where you would start with the beginning, and it'll teach the different concepts of comprehension. Comprehension meaning, do you understand what you read? Not just like simple questions like who said this or where did this person go, but deeper concepts. How do you inference? How do you read something and know what is happening even though it wasn't explicitly said, which would what we call inferencing, kind of reading between the lines. Or how do you pick out the main idea from a paragraph? Or drawing conclusions, even if it didn't say they did this. How do you know that this is going to happen? What conclusions can you draw? So it kind of goes topically, so that it'll give you excerpts from real novels. You won't read the whole novel. You could on the side, but it'll give you excerpts. So this is from the novel The Barn by Avi, and it's just a portion of it, and you read this. So it's coming from good literature. It's not like they just made up some scholastic junk. It is literally coming from good literature. It's just a piece of the book that they study, and then they are answering questions on it and doing activities with this passage that reinforce that reading comprehension. It's very thorough, very good. Again, great for those kids who need that workbook. This is the workbook I referenced when I talked about Jack Chris, the Winning with Writing, Soaring with Spelling, Growing with Grammar. This goes really well with that because it provides the comprehension piece that those don't have if you're doing those as a curriculum. This is also good if you're doing some online things. Again, it's just good to put in with something that is missing a good reading comprehension. You kind of throw that in to help. If you're doing Brave Writer, the writing pieces, put in this for comprehension as a quick workbook. Okay, next is First Language Lessons. First Language Lessons is a grammar program that is, especially in years 1 and 2, is primarily oral. So when we think of grammar, we're typically thinking of diagramming sentences or having to write something in the blank of how this fits. This is a conversation that happens. I actually used it with my son even when he was 3. He couldn't do all the lessons the way it needed to be because some stuff was not conceptually there. But it talks about family relationships and makes them practice skills like always answering in sentences instead of one-word answers. So when you practice that skill of always answering in sentences, that actually helps you write better later because you know how to answer in a complete sentence. That's not a sentence fragment, that's not a sentence, whatever. So you learn to write that way too because you've already learned to develop that skill verbally. So that's one of the things it pushes. It has stories that you read, does have some comprehension in the first few books. Excerpts that you read folk tales, you read questions you ask based on those. And then it takes you through what is a noun, and it has a lot of repetition. So my son could tell you, because we've said it every day 3 times, a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. And you study nouns for a long time in this curriculum before you get to verbs, but you're applying it to all these different situations. And so you don't just learn that a noun is a person, place, or thing, or idea. They start, okay, well, noun is a person. So they talk about relationships. They talk about, one lesson will be on family. So you talk about the nouns, people in your family, your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents, your children. Of course, they're not going to have children, but your moms, dads, whatever, brothers, sisters. That's what I'm trying to say. And you study nouns in relationship to who they are in your family. And you talk about the grammar elements of that, because these are, study proper nouns and common nouns. So because members of your family have proper nouns, their names, they talk about in those lessons that they have to start with a capital letter. But you're doing this all very orally, just talking about it in a conversation. It is scripted. It says the instructor tells you what to say as the instructor, and then it gives you what the student is supposed to say around that type thing. It's like, this should be the student's answer here and abouts, and it has to be in a complete sentence. So, and they have a lot of memorizing. They memorize poems, which is great skill for kids. You talk about a little bit of the structure of poetry and understanding what the poem means and how it applies. Some of the poems are on like days of the week and such, so they're also learning some other skills. This is all first language lessons 1. It's all a conversation. First language lessons 2, book 2 goes along with that. And then you have first language lessons 3 and 4. Now, lessons 3 and 4 are going to be structured a little different. Instead of just having a teacher's manual that's conversation, you will have the teacher's manual that will tell you how to teach it. Looks a little bit more complicated because they're getting into older grades, but then they also have a workbook. And this is where they'll actually start doing a little bit of diagramming and circling things and doing more book work, is when they reach level 3. So there is a book work portion, but you don't get to it till level 3. So by then they have a really good conceptual understanding before they work into putting it into that kind of abstract form, which is on paper. So that's first language lessons 1 through 4. I love that grammar program because it works them up so logically and easily without it being a super intense thing for students just learning, and not a whole lot of writing when they're so little and writing is so intense for them. So that is really good. That's 1st through 4th grade, because I would start first language lessons. You could start it in kindergarten or 1st grade. It might be better in 1st grade to start it, and then, you know, do level 2 and grade 2 and such. All right. Next is Fix It Grammar. That's our next grammar piece, because we're doing kind of grammar right now. Fix It Grammar is put out by the Institute of Excellence in Writing, or IEW. And it is going to have a teacher's manual, and it has level 1 and 2 would be your elementary version. You're really not going to start this until about 3rd grade. They have some younger versions that they're starting to come out with, but this particular one, Fix It Grammar, does not start until 3rd grade. So in it, you have the teacher's manual. What's great about this curriculum is that it's very short assignments every day. It's not a long grammar lesson every day, and it goes on a 4-day-a-week schedule. So again, allows for that Da Vinci day in there without it interrupting having to find the 5th day, time for the 5th day elsewhere. And it'll give you exactly what to teach and what to do. And I'll say day 1, day 2, day 3. And let me show you a student book so you can understand kind of what I mean. Here's week 9. You're going to be studying apostrophes to show ownership. That's the lesson. And they work with one sentence each day. And in it, they have to label it and show the different marks they have to do. So where it needs to be indented, your ending marks, period, question mark, exclamation point, depending on what type of sentence it is, your apostrophes, which ones are homophones. So you are, like, you're kind of editing this sentence and adding what needs to be there and choosing what needs to go to make that sentence the best sentence it is supposed to be, can be and supposed to be. But it's very simplistic. What's great is if you've done a really intense grammar program, your kids are so over it, this will reinforce all of those skills in a very simple way that's not intense. It's just a little bit each day, and it's very manageable. So that's the benefit of that program. Again, explicit, easy to follow. A lot of our parents have liked it just to kind of give themselves a breather. So levels 1 and 2 are going to be for the grade levels that we have. When you get into levels 3 and 4 of the Fix-It Grammar, you're really getting into middle school. So if you see that on their website. Now we're moving into more writing. So piggybacking off of that Fix-It Grammar, the company, Institute of Excellence in Writing, obviously started with a writing curriculum, because that's in its name. It's called IEW, Institute for Excellence in Writing, and it's changing a bit this year. I'm going to show you what we've had so far, but I'm going to also explain how it's kind of changing in the direction we're kind of moving with it. They have 2 products to practice writing with, 2 kind of different routes to go, I guess you could say. This is a 3rd through 6th curriculum again, so that Fix-It Grammar, you start in 3rd grade. I wouldn't start IEW until 3rd grade, the writing portion. It's just more intense and it expects a lot, but it is a very good program. It does a lot of, in the beginning, what's great about it is it does a lot of rewriting. So it's not like they're having to come up with their own ideas. They're actually taking an idea and rewriting it to make it better, basically. So it just doesn't seem so overwhelming for children. So they get this notebook that has a bunch of tabs in it. It's kind of hard to pull out of here. But it's how they file their different pieces in the process of writing. And this is the Writing Intensive A I'm showing you first. This is kind of your generic piece. It comes with some CDs, DVDs to listen to and have it taught to them. I'm trying to think of his name. It's Andrew something. I forgot. His first name's Andrew. I always remember that part. I go by first name basis. So Andrew ends up teaching these lessons, and the students are learning from the DVD. You can also teach it. You can also listen to these DVDs and just teach it yourself. But a lot of parents, they want the break of not having to teach it. So you have the Student Writing Intensive A that's showing you how to do the note. It has broken into different discs of how to do note taking, how to do story summaries, all the things they're going to be studying that year. You have all the worksheets you're going to need here, plus you'll be working with your own paper. All the materials you'll need to do this are right here. I feel like this is best for advanced learners. If you have a student who's struggling with writing, I wouldn't put them in Institute for Excellence in Writing or IEW. It is truly for those who have mastered like what a good sentence is overall. They can maybe write a paragraph already. Now they're ready, and it's not so overwhelming. Now they're ready to do these writing curriculums. So that is the Student Writing Intensive A. It's on a lot of different topics. It's just teaching them how to write. Now the difference is you can also, IEW also came out with a product that's called, let's go by topical. It's the same concept, but instead of bouncing around everywhere and kind of just teaching them how to write with various topics, this sticks to one topic. It's very similar. It doesn't come with CDs. This is on you to teach it. So the Student Writing Intensive A and B, which you'll only be using A. If you have a kid, unless they're super advanced, you'll move to B by 5th or 6th grade. But this will be something, it'll be topical. We have different topics like all things fun and fascinating. They can study ancient history. This one's US history, which some of our parents will pick one of these topical based IEW writing courses, and they'll fit it to what we're doing with the theme and topic here at school. So they're studying what we're studying on Da Vinci Day, which is kind of fun. So when we do ancient history, they grab the ancient history one. A really popular one is the All Things Fun and Fascinating, because it's more science-based writing. Really great topics, really fun, but this is where you teach it. The Student Writing Intensive A, you have more support through the DVD and everything. So 2 different versions, the Student Writing Intensive A, which is a variety of topics, and then this one that you have to teach kind of on your own, and you kind of listen to the theory behind it and how to teach it. We have some other instructor DVDs you can listen to. But this, you'll have to do a little bit more work, but it's fun to do things topical. Now let me move back to the A for a second. They are now coming out just this year with these things being online, the audio being online. Since we're moving away from CDs and DVDs and going to a lot of online formatting, and CDs scratch up and they skip and they don't always work well, they are now moving to an online platform with this. So we are most likely going to be moving to that online platform as well. So this is going to look a little different in that you might not get the CDs, you might get the online audio. So, or in most likely, yeah, that's what will happen. So different format for that, great, but a little bit more intense for intense learners. I think it's kind of hard to pick up and go, and it just takes a little bit more work from the parent, but so good. It really teaches your child to be an excellent writer. An excellent writer. That's why it's called Excellence in Writing. Okay, next one we have, I'm having to move. There's so much language arts curriculum that I had to spread out everywhere to get to it all. This one is Writing with Ease and Writing with Skill. This is written in the same, not necessarily by the same company as much as it is by the same homeschooling philosophy as first language lessons. A lot of people use first language lessons, which was that kind of oral grammar I talked about. We'll use Writing with Ease as well. It was written by Susan Wise Bauer, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways you can do it. For those who want a very scripted writing lesson, you're going to do this Writing with Ease. It's going to tell you what to say and what the students say, just like first language lessons. Again, these pair together very well. And it has the weeks laid out. Let me get to here. Again, it's on a 4-day-a-week schedule, which is very useful. And even though it looks really intense with all the reading and everything on it, that's just because all the words you have to say are in here too, because it's so scripted. So those scripted curriculums can look really intense when it's just being very detailed on what you can say to take the workload off of you as a homeschooling parent. So go through, there's copy work. This is the levels 1 through 4 is really based in copy work, the Writing with Ease. That's how they learn to write. Their philosophy is that if they copy writers who write well, they will learn what good writing is and will then become good writers themselves, basically. But this does it in a very formatted, well done way, but that's kind of the theory behind it. And the theory also is that instead of having students be overwhelmed by, I don't know what to write, and I'm trying to learn how to write well, because that's 2 different skills, they're saying we're going to teach them how to write well and move them into learning what to write. So here, they're told what to write because they're rewriting something, and they're learning how to write well through somebody else's writing. And then as they get into older grades in the Writing with Skill, which I'll show you in a sec, which is the upper level of this program, they start to write their own thoughts down, because now it's not so overwhelming because they already know what good writing looks like. All right. So levels 1 and 2 just come with a workbook. And then you're and you just follow that along, the instructors and the pages for the student to work in that you just pull out. They're perforated. This is completely consumable. You don't get this back to us. So the instructor's manual is there, and then you rip out the worksheets that they have to do the copy work on. It's all in one book, really easy to pick up and go. And that's all the way through, sorry, that's all the way through workbook 4. Level 4 is really remedial. So you want to do writing with ease levels 1 through 3 or grades 1 through 3. And then, or grades sometimes 2nd through 4th. But level 4 is remedial in that if they're still not ready to write on their own, you do level 4, but you don't have to do level 4. Writing with skill, this one is going to be a much higher level, but if they've done the writing with ease, it blends right into writing with skill. It's just the next level up. You have levels, you would only be using level 1 in our program for maybe a really high 4th grader or an on par 5th grader. If they're not an amazing writer, they don't want to go into, like, if they're not on grade level for 5th grade, you don't want to put them in writing with skill. Let me put it that way. It's again on a 4-day schedule, and it has a bunch of information for them to do. They study good writing, but then they also are doing lots of narrations that have to do with chronology, so time, and they start to learn how to do summaries and outlines. They study chronology and history, so doing timelines in history and working that into their writing, how to do good note taking and documentation. They write on science topics. They get really good at writing introductions and conclusions. They do comparisons where they compare 2 stories and how do you do that. They go just really in depth into all types of writing, and they teach them how to research and to cite work and to do all the writing process in this book. It is so thorough, and I feel like it is very good for preparing you for high school writing as well as college writing. I feel like students who did levels 1 and 2 of the writing with skill would be ready to do college papers. It's that good. So that's writing with ease and writing with skill. I wouldn't start writing with ease until 1st grade. You might even want to wait until 2nd grade. You could start writing with skill in 4th grade if you had a high 4th grader. I just wanted to reiterate those points. Okay, let's go into spelling really quick. Oh, wait, nope, sorry. Building Writers, almost forgot this. Building Writers is put out by Handwriting Without Tears, which is a handwriting program, a unique handwriting program. They put out this thing called Building Writers, and it's K through 6. But what I love is that this program, it's very basic. It doesn't have a whole lot of work on one page, and it works them up by levels as the kindergarten. And they will copy this sentence, but they will talk about what writers do. So writers tell what people, animals, or things do. They have to copy that. Bats eat bugs. Writers tell what animals do, basically. And they talk about what makes a good writer, what writers do, what they describe, and they work them up by copying first. And the next one is, it always says, you are a writer. Writers ask questions, and they answer questions. And so it takes them through what a writer is in just such a basic way. They start with, they talk about what writers do, and then they go into narrative writing, so writing stories. And they read stories and they write stories, but like in 1 or 2 sentences, because this is the kindergarten version. And then they talk about information writing, and they do a big section on information writing. And you teach them how to, eventually it gets into where it says a desert is, and they fill in the blanks instead of just copying. They're starting to add their own words in, that it's not just them copying. So it works them out really basic. And it goes into persuasive writing as well. So kind of the three of the main areas of writing. This is an older grade one. This is level F. They go into poetry, making shape poems. They do story starters where they start to learn narrative writing. They talk about endings. How do you have an effective ending? And it describes how you do that. And then it has them write about it. It teaches them lots of different components of writing to make them good writers. And eventually they get into taking notes on what they're reading, writing their own, starting to write their own essays where they're writing paragraph 1, paragraph 2, but it helps them, they break it down really easy. and really well. So if you want something that's just a little bit more basic and not as intense, and you want your kids to gradually learn how to write, they're not going to do something intensive like this and become those college writers, you know, that's not your desire in homeschooling. You just want them to have the basics of writing by end of fifth grade. I would do building writers. It's simple, easy, and it's not going to overwhelm them the way other certain writing curriculums would. So it just depends on what your goal is that you're trying to get out of your writing in homeschooling. Your educational specialist can really help you pick the right fit for you in your goals in homeschooling. Okay, spelling. Now I'm doing spelling. So we have All About Spelling. All About Spelling is the counterpart of All About Reading. So when I showed you this curriculum right here, All About Spelling goes with it. Put out by the same company. Again, they use those magnetic tiles. They have the word cards that are for the spelling program, just like they had the word cards for the reading program. And then they have this teacher manual. But the difference between this is you're not necessarily going to give you a test in this spelling program. It's going to have different steps. All About Spelling has levels 1 through 7. You might do 2 levels in a year, but they only have, let me go, because it's different for each level. Let me describe this. This one has 24 steps. A step is about a week long. So if you think our school year is like 32 weeks, you might get through this and start All About Spelling level 2 before the end of the year. You might go faster or slower depending on if they're getting the concepts, but they're called steps, and a step is about a week long, and they talk about the method, so read that in the beginning. You always read that to start off. You do your phonograms, you do games with it, you use the tiles to build the words, and you practice those word patterns with the cards and with the tiles, forming words as well as writing some words. It's just a very, very unique method of teaching spelling without there being a ton of writing or like a pre-test and a post-test. So if your child does not do well with a typical spelling program, you might want to do All About Spelling instead of a typical spelling program. This All About Spelling, if you're doing All About Reading and want to incorporate this, you don't start All About Spelling 1 until All About Reading level 2. So those numbers do not match up. The program recommends you start All About Spelling 1 when they finished All About Reading 1. So you're doing All About Spelling 1 with All About Reading 2. You're doing All About Spelling 3 with All About Reading 2. So whatever, it's like a level above the All About Reading is the All About Spelling. Okay? Okay, next is Spelling Workout. This is best for independent learners with busy parents. It will have the word list on the side. I grabbed a first grade and a fifth grade? Yeah, fifth grade. Fifth and sixth grade. They have the word list on the side. They usually start with a little reading passage that's going to talk about what the skill they're going to learn. They're going to have their word list. They're going to do some vocabulary activities. It's like a spelling workbook, kind of like the Spectrum spelling. They have in the parent manuals the pre-test and post-test you can give, but it's not worked in the workbook. So it's good to have the teacher's edition, but some people are like, I don't need that. I can correct this on my own. This has all the teacher's edition has the answer key, and it has sentences that you can do the pre-test and post-test with, but some of our parents just use this as a workbook, or they just want to make up their own sentences and they can check it without having an extra book at home of the teacher's edition. It just depends what you want. It's nice to have the teacher's edition just for that, to make it quicker for you to check answers and such, so I would recommend it, but not everyone wants it. So you have your list words. Typically you do some pattern practice on the first page with those list words. So if for instance this one's talking about consonants, so you're practicing the consonant some of the consonant patterns, or maybe you're practicing compound words and such, you're going to be splitting up the words in some way on the first page to practice the pattern. Second page is all about vocabulary. And third page is always going to have an editing activity to practice your writing skills with the editing and proofreading. And then it's going to have a small writing activity at the bottom. So you're getting a little bit of grammar, a little bit of writing, not like a full curriculum, but just a little practice in your spelling curriculum. Each lesson is a week long, and you could do a page a day for a 4-day week because there's only 2 front and back pages for every word list. So you do a front or a back each day, or they can do all the workbook in one sitting and just practice their words other times or other ways in the week. And then every like 6 weeks or so, they'll have a review week where you review all the words that they've done so far. So that's spelling workout. That was B, or first grade. And then this is F, which would be 5th or 6th grade. You can see their reading passage is way more difficult. They're practicing their breakdown of the word patterns because they're learning words with ear, R, and air, those spelling patterns, and they break down their list words into that. By then they move to cursive, so they're expected to be able to read cursive by really 2nd grade. Level C is they introduce print and cursive into the word list, and by level D, which is a 3rd or 4th grader, they're expected to be able to read cursive. Then your vocabulary activities, and then again, proofreading, writing activity. So they're all formatted the exact same, good for a 4-day week program, and easy if you just need your kids to have a spelling workbook. All right. We have 2 more, and then we're home free. Probably all asleep or paused or something because it's a very long video. All right. The next one is Spelling UC. Spelling UC is another not typical traditional spelling. It's going to have, each level is going to have an instructor's handbook, which is kind of skinny. It'll tell you how to do each lesson. It'll have an overview, how to work the program. It'll talk about lesson 1 and vowel chunking because this program is based on vowel chunking, which I'll show you in a minute. And it'll take you through every lesson and what they're supposed to be learning. It's a very short teacher manual, so here's lesson 6, directions, here's lesson 7. It's just giving you an overview. You're doing the same skills pretty much every time. Here is B, should be like your 1st grade workbook here. Again, manual structured the same. In the B, which is the 1st grade, you have 2 workbooks, part 1 and part 2. Let me grab part 1. And they are doing a lot of copy work. They're doing some poems that are familiar, like this is Jack and Jill poem, and they do a lot of copy work, and then they do a lot of handwriting practice, practicing the words and the spelling pattern. And eventually, though, they are going to do a lot of chunking. So they're going to find the patterns they want you to find, and you're going to either color them or circle them with certain pencil crayons. They recommend you get the erasable kind, and you're going to be circling them or underlining them or boxing them, depending on what it tells you or what you feel like doing, and finding those in the passages. So you would take this passage and you would be finding the chunk. So maybe they would say, find the short A's and circle them in yellow. So they're learning the patterns by finding them and circling them, or what they call chunking them, rather than having like a spelling list. The difference is, instead of studying one word pattern, they're finding that, they are gradually finding the patterns, but eventually you get to this point where, let me show you. See these vowel chunks? All of these vowel chunks you find in this passage, and you're doing them in yellow, these ones in blue and these in purple. So you're doing multiple chunks at once. You're not necessarily finding just one chunk and studying that for a week. So this would be for somebody, again, who needs a unique spelling program. They're not going to learn a traditional way. So you would do this one, or all about spelling. If you're really into the copy work and dictation and then learning to write well and learning that way, again, this is a good program for you. It has levels A through G or H, somewhere in there. And it's a 1st through 6th grade program. I wouldn't start it till 1st grade. I wouldn't start it in kindergarten. And if you're just wanting thematic spelling rather than phonetical spelling, this is a good good instruction for you. Last one is Wordly Wise. Now, Wordly Wise is not so much a spelling program in the sense of spelling lists, but it does have some like phonetical components, and it has a lot of vocabulary instruction and even some comprehension. So here's a kindergarten version. You have the teacher resource book. I got the workbook as well. It's going to show you all the directions for the pages you're going to see in your little kindergarten book. Tell you what each one means. Get through it. Let me get to the actual pages here. So here you have all of these days. It has days 1 through 4, sometimes days 1 through 3, depending on the week, but I'll say week 1 and then week 2, and I'll tell you what to do. So on week 2, day 1, you introduce the words that they're learning. So it does have some spelling things. It's not just spelling. And you do the picture card and you talk about the community. So it comes with these picture cards, which are really cute and unique. It reminds me of something I would have done in a kindergarten classroom. I won't pull them out because they're kind of hard to pull out, but you can kind of see the picture cards in there. They're these big cards in here. They're concept cards and picture cards. Actually, these are the picture cards, the smaller ones, the picture cards, but still, same thing. So this, it talks about being rotten. So the word is rotten. And in there, it was like community or something or whatever it said. So you'd find the one that had that word, and it has a picture on it to kind of help them learn what that word means. Because this is not just a spelling curriculum, it is a vocabulary curriculum. It's direct vocabulary instruction. We put it kind of in the spelling because they're learning some phonics with it too. But really, it's a lot of vocabulary instruction. The different meanings of words, their origins, and then a lot of comprehension because they do a lot of reading passages in the older grades. So the teacher manual is going to be very explicit on what to do and how to teach it, and when you're reading a story, you're rereading the story, you're retelling the story. How do you do those things? You let the kids review and respond on the story. You have formal assessments and all of that jazz, as I like to say. And here's your workbook. There's a cute little workbook here. It's very colorful and cute for a kindergartner. See this one? I just passed it. They're learning how to do story sequencing. So what happened first, second, and third, you can see there in the story. So it's the I Spy. So they learn about retelling a story, sequencing, and a lot of comprehension activities. This curriculum actually covers a ton of standards because of the vocabulary instruction, because of the comprehension that's in there, of reading the stories and answering questions on it. It covers a lot of language arts standards. I wouldn't say it's an all-inclusive and that it will get you through all your standards in one curriculum. It's actually going to give you a lot of bang for your buck. Let me show you the older grades though, because the kindergarten is going to have more of those basic skills. And they have a lot more of those picture cards and a lot more pieces. The older grade is just going to have the teacher resource book, but again has the explicit instructions in here on how to do it, and your answer keys. So it'll tell you how to work the program, and then the answer keys and all the exercises and assessments and everything in here. But then the students get a workbook. And I just want to show you how they have the reading passages. So you have a reading passage, and then you have this workbook that will ask about words in the reading passage. So for instance, you will have a word that will be in the reading passage, and you use the words around it to help you get the meaning of that passage, or the meaning of the word in that passage. So you read the sentence. So the word was aggravate. What is the meaning of aggravate as it is used in the passage? Because words can have multiple meanings. So you take that, you read the passage, and it's teaching them to go, and this is like really prepares them well, again, for high school and for test prep. If you want them to do well on end of year testing, this is a great book for that, because it's teaching them how to dive into the passage, get the meaning of words, And then it has, again, that inferencing I talked about. How can drinking from water that comes from the earth under a landfill affect a person's health? You are grabbing that information from the passage by both by the directness in the passage of maybe it gives the exact things that you need, but also you might be reading between the lines or inferencing to get the answers for that. And here is your, you kind of use, we put it under spelling because you also learn to spell these words as you're learning the meanings of them. It's more of a vocabulary curriculum, I would say, than a spelling curriculum, but spelling kind of goes with it. And there's your word list and vocabulary extensions. It's just a really well-rounded vocabulary curriculum with some comprehension in it. Good, really good test prep curriculum. Love it a lot, covers a lot of standards. Again, I wouldn't say it's a full curriculum, but it is, or a complete curriculum rather, but it's a really good supplement. Something, for instance, even like the Jack Chris again, or if you want something to go along with your All About Reading that has a little bit more comprehension and vocabulary to it, this would go really well with that. So there's your kindergarten, which again has more pieces to it because conceptually they need a little bit more help with pictures. And then your older kids, it's meant to be somewhat independent by the time they get into older grades, the Wordly Wise is. It is like they can pick up and go. You don't always have to be a part of that. So that is Wordly Wise. That was a lot of curriculum. And eventually I get to the point where I've done so much that I might have left a lot for you guys to have questions on. So even though Wordly Wise is a first, well, it says first through six, it's really a K through 6 because there's a kindergarten portion to it. Even though I've gone through a lot, you may have a lot of questions. Still, that's what your educational specialist is for. This was just to introduce you to each of the curriculums and let you see what each one looks like with the different components, and to kind of, for you to decide which one seems like it would fit my child or even my personality better. So you'll go from that. This was a very long video. I am so sorry. That is a really intense, but hopefully you got a lot out of it. Thanks.